at the start of our season at training camp, I remember coming back as a 17-year-old, my second year, and we didn't talk about making playoffs. We didn't talk about finishing first. We talked about winning the Memorial Cup. My first year when I was 16 years old, we lost out in the finals to Kamloops, and throughout the playoffs, your goal was to go to the Memorial Cup. So that's kind of my first introduction to the Memorial Cup, and we had a good enough team and the leadership and the depth to be able to go there. And at the time, there was the powerhouses were Prince Albert and then Kamloops in the West, and we ended up meeting Kamloops, and we lost in 7 games to them. So they ended up going to the Memorial Cup, and Portland was hosting that year. So that was my first introduction, and we were so close. So the desire to go there and get back there the following year was very big. Yeah, there was a core that was young. When I was 16, the first year when we lost out in the league finals, we had a nice tight core. We had a great leadership of an older group teaching us how to play a 7-game series and the depth and the work ethic that it takes to get there. So the second year when we ended up winning our first Memorial Cup, we had a really good core, and then we had a young guy coming in named Trevor Linden that boosted that young core to the next level. And our leadership from some of the older guys and some of the overages that came in and some trades that Russ Farwell made solidified that team and got us over the hump, and we ended up going on to the first Memorial Cup. I think at any level, whether it's WHL or any league that you play in all the way up to the NHL, the experience of being there before helps a lot. And the core group, like you said, that we lost in the finals, it gives you that desire and the urge and the passion to get back there because you didn't quite accomplish what you wanted to the first year. So the first year that we won the Memorial Cup in '87, we did draw on the experience, and it was pretty exciting for the whole group. And then obviously the second year in '88 when we won the second Memorial Cup, some of us drew on the previous 2 years, and we had a new core group of guys and some older guys that we traded, Rocky Dundas and those guys that came in that helped us get over the hump again. And you had a group that had been there before, had won before, and took what they had and passed it on to the other guys in the dressing room, which helped make it successful for a second time in a row. Well, for me, it's everybody has their own avenues for that. For me, I was playing for the LA Kings until February, and I got sent down right before the trade deadline. Went over and played in the World Junior. And then after the World Junior, we had 5 guys on our team that year that played in the World Junior. So after we had won the gold medal in Russia, I got sent back to Medicine Hat. So for me, it was only a half a season. I played the last 30 games of the season. And you know what, the motivation to go is through the guys, and it starts right at the top with Russ Farwell. The previous year we had Brian Maxwell as a coach, and that second Memorial Cup team we had Barry Melrose, and they're both very passionate, player-orientated coaches, so they were easy to play for, and you wanted to play for them. And the core group of the guys in the dressing room, you fed off them. Your Robbie DeMaios and your Scott McCrady's and your Dean Schnaus and your Trevor Lindens and Mark Petersons and Ryan McGill's. Mark Fitzpatrick was a very passionate goalie that played both Memorial Cups. We had a core group that you could feed off any guy in every night, and they brought you up and they carried our team. It wasn't one individual or 2 individuals. We had every single guy going and believed in one system, and I truly believe that came right from the top, and that was our general manager, Russ Farwell, who was the best general manager that anybody could play for at the junior level. And he put together a different group every year with different coaches and made it happen. Well, I kind of recognized that I wasn't getting a lot of playing time. I was 18 years old playing for a very weak LA Kings team that had just made a huge trade for Wayne Gretzky, and there was immense pressure to win every single night. So I wasn't getting a lot of playing time. So I knew my time in LA was limited up to the trade deadline, and I asked if I could go to the World Junior, which made 5 guys from Medicine Hat on the World Junior team. And you know, going back to Medicine Hat, I knew it was exciting. I knew we had a good team, and I knew we had a good core from the previous Memorial Cup team there. So it was nothing like I was sitting in LA not wanting to go back to Medicine Hat. It was a great program. You're playing for a great coach in Barry Melrose. You got a great GM, like I said, with Russ Farwell, and a core group of guys that a number of those guys went on and played in the NHL. So I was very excited to go back to Medicine Hat, live with a wonderful family. One of the strong things about playing in the Canadian Hockey League is your billet family. And I still keep in touch with them today. So I was excited to get back and see them. As a hockey player, you want to play and you want to develop and you want to improve. And I knew I could go back there, get lots of ice time, and I was going back to a team that had a really good chance to repeat as champions of the Memorial Cup. Well, I think for a lot of young players, I'm from Calgary, and at the time we had a scout that scouted from us. His name's Keith Wilson, and he picked a lot of Calgary kids. And back then, not a lot of players were choosing the college route. And a lot of it was we didn't want to move down to a place unknown in the United States, a long way away from home. So being from Northeast Calgary, Medicine Hat was nice and close. It was a place that my parents could drive to, a family that you could relate to. The school system was the same. So for me, it was an easy decision. There was a lot of kids from Calgary. I was very familiar with their team. The Calgary Wranglers were in Calgary at the time, and I watched a lot of games. And so to go to Medicine Hat, and when I went there when I was 16 and met Russ Farwell and their staff, Doug Sauter was the coach at the time there my first year, that it was just they wanted to win. They had a winning attitude around there from their education program. The high school was wonderful. The transition from going from high school to Calgary to high school in Medicine Hat, the team had set it up educationally wise that it was a really easy transition for us players to move into that school system, play a rigorous schedule that you play in the WHL, and still be able to keep up our schoolwork. And that was important not only for me, but for my family, because there is life after hockey. And Russ Farwell and the Medicine Hat Tigers made that transition very easy. So for us as a family to make that decision as a 16-year-old, it was pretty easy because the WHL and the Medicine Hat Tigers at the time made those options available to you, so they could educate you, and so you fully understood what you were stepping into and the situation that you were going into, and I was very excited to do it. As a young man, I think when you go into there and everybody's in the same situation, so you're 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20-year-old kids that are playing in the WHL, and you're playing in one of the best leagues in the world. You're not only are you excited there, but the players around you, like I was mentioning before, Rob DeMaio and Trevor Linden and Dean Chenault and Scott McCready, these guys were all fabulous younger players, and they were superstars in the WHL, and they went on, a lot of them, to have great NHL careers. So it was really exciting to play with them and see their work ethic and what they did to become better players. And when you're with a good team and you have number of these guys on it, it's a very contagious atmosphere, and Medicine Hat the city of Medicine Hat was really lucky, and it was a great city to be able to bring back 2 Memorial Cup championships to that city, and they embraced us really well. Yeah, we had an environment. Again, Russ Farwell, at the start of our season at training camp, I remember coming back as a 17-year-old, my second year, and we didn't talk about making playoffs. We didn't talk about finishing first. We talked about winning the Memorial Cup. And that was a discussion in camp. And we all knew we were really close the previous year. So our discussion was, we're here to win the Memorial Cup, and we're going to do everything about it. And that not only goes from your on-ice performance, but what you do off the ice, getting to bed early, eating the proper food, going to school, and not doing stuff, allowing stuff to creep into your outside of your hockey world that would affect your on-ice performance. And everybody bought into that. And not one guy, not 2 guys, but we had 20 guys in our team that truly believed that we were going to win the Memorial Cup, and we had the team to do it. And not one guy, the accountability from every guy, not one guy was allowed to diverse from that goal. Yeah, I'll go back to the year before. Same thing happened with Oshawa. So we played Oshawa, we lost to them in the round robin, we played them in the finals and beat them in the finals. So we were very familiar, we went through it. It was a long process, it was long playoffs. I believe they had won 40 plus games. I knew a couple of the players from the World Junior, your Adam Graves and Shannons, and they had a great team. And we knew their record, we knew they had a great team, they were deep, they had a great goalie. And going into it, we knew it wasn't going to be easy, and we weren't the favorite team to win. So losing to them in the round robin put us aware that they're a very, very good team. But the one great thing about a Memorial Cup, different than other tournaments, it's one win and you take all. All you have to do is get to the finals and play a solid game, and you can win the Memorial Cup, and that's exactly what we did. We had a great game in the finals against them, a lot better than we did in the round robin, and we ended up winning the game. No, again, we had a veteran team, and drawing on your past experiences like what we talked about, we'd been down 3-0 to a lot of teams throughout playoffs and throughout the season, and we knew we had the team. We also had the power play that could score 3 goals. So there was no panic. It was the first period. So we were a high-scoring team. We had a lot of firepower. We had 3 solid lines up front. We had 5 solid defensemen that just rotated, and sooner or later we were going to get the goals and they were going to go in. And one of the things we weren't doing in the first period was shooting the puck. So in the second and third period, I remember Barry was just get the pucks through, get some bounces, they'll start going in. And that's exactly what we went out and did. We executed our game plan in the second and third period, and we took the game away from Windsor. Yeah, like a lot of people have won a couple times, our first year was amazing. It was jubilation, and everybody was jumping around. It was something that had taken us 2 years to get there because we had lost in the finals the year before, and it was jubilation throughout the whole dressing room, and you're going crazy, and you're 17 years old and you're jumping around. The second year, I remember winning the second year, and Dean Schnauth and I looking at each other, and we were exhausted. We were just so tired, and we were proud, and the jubilation was still there, but there was more of a sense of pride and just being proud to be able to do it back to back. We weren't as excited as, say, some of the guys on the team that won their first time, but winning the second time, I think it's more of a pride and a proud thing that you can take on the rest of your life. And I just remember sitting back, and we were very, very happy, and for all our teammates. We were excited for the franchise and the city of Medicine Hat, excited for our teammates, and just very proud of what we accomplished. But I do remember being very, very tired and playing a lot of minutes, and it just being a toll on all of us, and just a sense of accomplishment. Well, when we got back, first thing, you go back to your billets, and they're pretty excited. A lot of the billets traveled and went to the different Memorial Cups and that. So you get back and you settle back in, and you've already made all your phone calls to your families. There was no cell phones back then, so you didn't have that luxury of phoning everybody or texting everybody like you would nowadays. So it was phone calls and catching up with all your family. But it's really neat to get back to a city where you went to school and graduated high school, and you knew a lot of people in the city. You had friends outside the hockey world. So it was really exciting to be back in Medicine Hat and share that with the city of Medicine Hat, because they're a big part of the team, and every Canadian Hockey League team, a big part of them being successful is the city that they live in, and the teams are so connected to the city and financially, as well as the attendance and the energy of the team really exudes from the city itself. Well, I think it's something that you carry on the rest of your life, and you're always known as the Double Cup Memorial Cup team of Medicine Hat, and it was a unique team that we had. So anytime, I'm quite involved with the NHL alumni, so anytime I go anywhere and I run into your Terry Yakes, your Kelly Chases, these guys that were legends back in the WHL days, playing against them, you talk about the Medicine Hat days and the Double Memorial Cup team and the players that we had. So it's something special that you always talk about. And I think in the hockey circles, it's, as you pointed out, it's something that very few teams have done. So it's definitely a focal point, and it's something that I think is whether or not you went on and played in the NHL, the American Hockey League, or played in Europe, or retired after junior, is something that every player that played on those two teams can be very proud of. I don't think anybody in the moment of winning, you think that you're going to be talking about this 30 years later. I think you talk about that 30 years later, and what I love about 30 years later, we were always better than we probably were. So we talk about how good those teams were, and they're a lot better now, I believe, when we start talking, we all get together, than they probably actually were at the time. There was a lot of good teams back there and a lot of good players that, a bounce here, a bounce there, they could have won. And, that's what's great about sports. We're sitting right now talking about a team that won 30 years ago on a 100-year anniversary of the WHL, or the Canadian Hockey League. So that's what sports is all about. It's about memories. It's about memories for the fans, memories for the city, memories for parents, and obviously memories for the players that play in it. And that's the greatest thing about hockey, is we're sitting here talking today about games that we played 30 years ago that people still remember because it changed some of their lives.